I got the moves. I got the moves. I'm making moves. You gotta move. You gotta make the city move. Like, whoa. I make the city move. I got the move.
Cole Anthony is a 6'3", 190-pound point guard from the University of North Carolina. He's had a relatively successful season there and is likely to declare now for the NBA draft, with many mock drafts having him near the top of the board. But how good is he really? In today's video, I will be looking at Cole Anthony's college career, his strengths and weaknesses, his NBA comparison, where I believe he will get drafted, and what teams I believe should decide to select him on draft day. Before we start, if you're new here and enjoy NBA content, whether that be player analysis, team analysis, predictions, etc., please be sure to subscribe to this channel. It really helps me a lot. I'm trying to hit 15k by the end of the year, so if you could go down and hit that subscribe button, it would mean a ton. But with that all being said, let's talk about Cole Anthony.
Lucas.
Cole Anthony is a point guard from the North Carolina TarHeels and stands at 6'3". He had a great season at UNC stats-wise, averaging 18.5 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 4 assists per game, but his efficiency wasn't great, shooting only 38% from the field. However, as a team, the Tar Heels struggled mightily this year, finishing the college season with a losing record of 14-19 and were 6-14 in their conference. Even with this poor winning season though, Anthony's draft stock has remained high and he is still seen as a top guard in this year's draft class. So, what are the strengths and weaknesses of Cole Anthony? What is he good at and what needs improvement? Let's start with his strengths. Scoring. Cole Anthony's biggest attribute to his game is his scoring ability. He's a dangerous mid-range and three-point shooter and is comfortable shooting from practically anywhere on the floor. He's got a nice layup package and a floater package too, but can also throw it down with ease when need be. His all-around game in this area is fantastic and is exactly what teams would want and expect in a modern-day point guard. Defense. One thing that somewhat separates Cole Anthony from the rest of his draft class is his defense. Anthony is always hustling on defense and putting the same effort on that end as the other side, and it's reflected by his stats as he averages almost 1.5 steals per game. He has great instincts defensively, great recognition of passing lanes, and he's had many chase down block highlights this season. He's also a fantastic leader on this end as well, being very vocal on defense, yelling out instructions, etc. Overall, defense is a major strength in Cole Anthony's game, and it's going to be a big factor for him come draft night. So those are the biggest strengths of Cole Anthony in my opinion. But what are his weaknesses? Playmaking. Though Cole Anthony isn't a terrible playmaker at all, it does need some work if he wants continued success in the NBA. It's nothing major, as he isn't terrible at playmaking, but it does need some polishing up, like making the extra pass and not over dribbling, etc. And those are the strengths and weaknesses of Cole Anthony. Let me know if you agree with these below or if I missed any, but with that being said, let's move on to the next part of the video, Cole Anthony's NBA player comparison. If I had to compare Anthony to any player, current or past, I'd have to say Austin Rivers is the most applicable guy. Both players have similar play styles, heights, etc. Rivers has become a very solid player lately with Houston, and the kind of play style he's been showcasing there looks very similar to Anthony. Is Anthony more likely to become a star and have a better career than Rivers? Yes, personally I think so. I think Anthony is going to be a very promising player once he enters the league. But in terms of game style, position, etc., I think Rivers is the closest player to Cole Anthony right now. So, with this all said, where is Cole Anthony likely to be drafted? To me, he should be a guaranteed top 10 pick, and I also think it's very likely he goes top 5. In my personal opinion, he's a top 5 player in this draft, but I think he's most likely to fall around the 6 or 7 spot, but it all really depends on how the lottery plays out. Again, he's a guaranteed top 10 pick, And if the lottery plays out well for him, he's probably a top 5 pick, but realistically, I see him falling to maybe around the 6th or 7th spot. What team should target Cole Anthony in the draft? The first team I believe should have a good look at him is the New York Knicks. If the Knicks fail to get Lamelo Ball, this is by far the next best option. The Knicks have been looking for a franchise point guard for a while now, trading for guys like Dennis Smith Jr. and drafting players like Frank Ntilikina with the hope they turn into something special. However, that has continuously failed to happen, but I believe that can change with the drafting of Cole Anthony. When he's first there, he would have an extreme lack of help, but this might also be a good thing for him as he'd get a lot of opportunities in his first year there. It'd be a similar situation to the one Ja Morant had this year, where the organization lets the young guard take over the keys to the offense immediately. The duo of Cole Anthony and RJ Barrett would also be very exciting to me, and I believe they would have the potential to be a top duo in the NBA down the track, and maybe one day even lead the Knicks to a playoff spot. Another team I'd be excited to see Anthony on is Minnesota. The Timberwolves have a superstar center in Karl Anthony Towns, and an all-star in D'Angelo Russell at the shooting guard spot. What they lack though is a decent point guard to run the offense, and to be honest, apart from Cat and D'Lo, the Wolves roster is extremely weak. Anthony would add to the young core of Minnesota and hopefully become an instant contributor at the starting point guard spot. He'd be behind D'Lo and Cat of course, limiting his opportunities, but I think playing behind stars like them will give him plenty of education on how to play at an NBA level. This is more of a personal one to me, not necessarily based on fit, but Cole Anthony, Towns, and Russell would be an extremely fun and interesting core group of guys to watch, and it would hopefully boost the interest in Minnesota's NBA team. So overall, these are my thoughts on Cole Anthony. He's a fantastic scoring point guard, and his defense is great as well. His playmaking could use some work, but with all things considered, this can be worked on at the next level, but if it's not improved in his first couple years, it may hold him back in the years to come. Currently, he reminds me a lot of Austin Rivers, but I think it's likely he has a much higher ceiling beyond him. To me, he's a top 5 pick in this year's draft, but I can see him slipping as low as 6th or 7th. It all really depends on what teams get what pick. I'd be excited to see him on a Knicks or Timberwolves squad, and overall, I believe he's a future all-star in the NBA. Cole Anthony and the North Carolina TarHeels have not had the greatest season, but I think what Anthony has shown has proven to scouts he's a legit talent. He may not be the best player in the draft, and his ceiling is certainly not as high as others, but I think Anthony is the safest bet in the draft. He's a low-risk, high-reward type selection, and due to this, I think he'll end up as a top 5 pick in the 2020 NBA Draft. And that will conclude the video. What do you guys think of this? How good is Cole Anthony to you? Is he a top 5 pick in your opinion? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop it a like and subscribe. But with that being said, I am out. Peace.